All right, so now we're going to do an application problem. Okay, so here's the diagram. I'm going to read the problem, and then we'll dive right in and solve it. Okay, it says consider the network of 4 one-way streets shown in the figure on the board. In the figure, x1, x2, x3, and x4 indicate flow rates in vehicles per hour. Okay. Along the stretches of roads AB, BC, CD, and DA respectively. The other numbers in the figure indicate other flow rates moving into and out of intersections A, B, C, and D. Okay, so let's show what the one-way streets look like. Okay, so the streets run this way. So this would be this, 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 and this, right? So this is one way going this way, then this is one way going this way, one way going this way, and then the one way going up. Okay, so the arrows tell you the one-way direction. Okay? Now, so x1 represents the flow rate going down this street. Okay? And x2 represents the flow rate going down this street. Okay, and so on and so forth. And then these are the rates of going in and coming out. Right? So this is, for example, this is the rate of cars coming into this route, and this is the flow rate coming out of this route. Okay? So you can see that it's telling you here, if this is coming in and this is going out, then obviously we have cars that are turning, right? Either turning, turning left here or turning right here. Okay, but again, that's the general setup. Those are what the numbers indicate. So now, let's use this setup to answer some questions. All right, so the first question, it says set up a system of equations that represents traffic flowing freely. All right, so let's look at the different intersections. All right, so let's look at the different intersections. They want us to set up a system of equations that represents traffic flowing freely. Okay, and I think they look at the intersections. Let's see here. Yeah, flowing freely. Set up a system of equations that represents traffic flowing freely. Okay, so now let's look at the intersections. Okay, so let's look at intersection A. Right, so let's look at intersection A. And what do we have? We've got the inflow, right, the flow of traffic coming in, the rate of traffic coming into intersection A, right? And also from here, right, so we know this one, but also this one, right, the flow rate for going along this path, right? So if we wanted to represent an equation, it would be the flow, this plus this, right? So it would be 216 plus x4. Now that flow rate should equal the flow rate going away from intersection A, which would be this route and this rate, right? So it'd be 356 out and then X1 going along AB, right? That stretch of road AB. So that should equal 356 plus X1. So there's one of our equations, right? So let's set up, now let's go to intersection B. Now, B in is going to be X1 plus 298. So it'd be 298 plus X1 is going to equal the outgoing traffic, which is going to be 166 and X2. So that's going to be 166 plus X2. And then now let's go to intersection C. And so now with C, the incoming traffic to intersection C is going to be X2 and 247. So that's going to be 247 plus X2, and that's going to equal the outgoing traffic, which is going to be what? It's going to be the 281 and X3. So 281 plus X3. And then D, the incoming traffic to intersection D is going to be X3 and 315. And then the outgoing traffic from intersection D is going to be 273 and X4. Oops. All right. So that is our system of equations. And so now, that's part A. All right, so now what do they want us to do in the next part? So that's the system that represents free-flowing traffic. So now B says write the augmented matrix for the system of equations in reduced row echelon form. All right, so now let's write the equation. So we're going to move the variables to one side and the constants to the other side. Okay, now write this down because I'm going to erase this, okay, to give myself some room. Okay, so now this is going to give me what? It's going to give me X4 minus X1 is going to equal 356 minus 216. The second one is going to give me X1 minus X2. It is going to equal 166 minus 298. And then the third one's going to give me X2 minus X3 is going to equal 281 minus 247. And the last one's going to give me X3 minus X4 is going to give me 273 minus 315. All right. So all I did was move the variables all to one side and the constants to the other. All right, so now, and everything is in the right order, so now what we're going to do is set up the matrix, right? So, first one is going to be what? We want X1 first, right? So again, we want all the X1s, X2, X3s, and X4s lined up, right? So X1 would be first. So in this case, there's no x2 or x3, so it's going to be -1, 0, 0, 1. And then what's this? This is going to be what? 140, right? So this is going to be 140. Okay, check my math. So this will be 84 plus 56. So now, let's do the next one. The next one we have x1 and x2. So we have 1, -1, and then 2 zeros. So it's going to be 1, -1, 0, 0. And this is going to give me so that's going to be -132. So this will be -132. Okay, again, just check my math. And then the third row, right, the next row is going to be, well, we have 2 and 3, so x1 is going to be 0, followed by 1, and -1, and then followed by 0, and then this one is going to be -34, right? And then the final one, the final row is going to be 0, 0, 1, -1. And then this is going to give us a negative what? -42. And now we've got our matrix. So that's the, oh, now what they want us to do, part of part B, is now we want to put it in reduced row echelon form. So now what we're going to do is solve this, right? So we want to solve, so now I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, again, make sure, so again, this is going to be x1, x2, x3, and x4, okay? So now, I'm going to swap these two, right? So I'm going to swap these two. And so, well, actually, you know what? Let's leave it alone. Let's just go ahead and eliminate this one and we're just going to add these two. That'd be easier. Okay, so let's do row 1 plus row 2 and replace row 2. Okay, so now I'm going to write a little smaller, give myself some room. So this is going to be the, okay, so the only row that's changing is 2. The other other 3 rows are going to stay the same. So this is going to be, yeah, let's do it. How do I, you know what? Let's do this the right way. Even though this, we could switch these, but let's just keep it the right way. So let's, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. Let's switch these two, right? Yeah, why don't we do this? Let's switch these two. Let's swap row 1 and row 2. You'll see what I'm doing. Okay? So now we're going to get 1, -1, 0, 0, -132, okay? And this is going to be -1, 0, 0, 1. Okay, and so just so you see what I'm doing, notice that I've got a positive one here, a positive one here, a positive one here, and a positive one there. So what I could do is just swap all the rows. So I'm just going to move the rows. I'm just going to move the rows around so that this row is in number 1, this row is in number 2, this row is in number 3, and the first row is in 4th position. Right? So why don't we do that? Okay? So yeah, let's do that. So in this case here, I'm using the eliminator row operations to do this, right? So you should know that we can swap any of these rows. So let's just move the rows around so that we have all of these in the right order. So let's put number 2 as number 1. So this is going to give us 1, -1, 0, 0, -132. And then the next one would be 0, 1, -1, 0, 34. And the next one's going to be 0, 0, 1, -1, -42. And then the first row is going to be the fourth row, which is going to be -1, 0, 0, 1, and 140. Okay, so all I did was swap all the rows, right? Now that I've got this diagonal ones, now I'm just going to eliminate everything else, which will be really easy, okay? So in this case here, let's eliminate this one first, right? So we want to start with the leftmost column and move right. So we're going to take row 1 plus row 4. Row 1 plus row 4 and replace row 4. Okay? So that's going to give us what? That's going to give us what now? Okay, so let me just go back to here. Okay? And again, you just keep writing this on your paper. So now, what does this give me? This gives me 1, -1, 0, 0, -132. Okay? And then the rest are going to stay the same. 0, 1, -1, 0, 34, 0, 0, 1, -1, -42, and the final row is just going to be 0, right? And then what happens here? So this is going to be row 1 plus row 4, right? So row 1 plus row 4 is 0, and then -1 and 0 gives me -1, and then 0 and 0, that's just going to give me 0. And then 0 and 1 gives me 1. And then I get -132 and 140 is going to give me 8. Right? And now I'm going to use this one to get rid of these two. Right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take row 1 plus row 2 plus row 1 and replace row 1. And then I'm going to do row 2 plus row 4 and replace row 4, right? So now I'm going to write that matrix, right? Okay, so now what happens to row 1? Well, this is going to become 0, right? So now it's going to be 1, 0, and then -1, right? And then 0, right? So row 2, so this is going to be 0, and this is going to be -1, 0, and then this is going to give you -98. All right, now the row 2 is unchanged, so 0, 1, -1, 0, 34. And now this row is unchanged, so 0, 0, 1, -1, -42. And then now what happens to row 4? Well, this is going to stay the same. That's going to stay 0. This is going to go to 0. And then this is going to become -1, right? -1 plus 0 is -1. And then 0 and 1 is 1. And then this is going to be 34 and 8, which is 42. All right. All right, so now we're done with the first 2 columns. Now let's go to the next column, and we're going to use this to eliminate the rest of them. So in this case here, let's write out all the transformations we're going to do. So this is going to be, let's do row 3 plus row 1 and replace row 1. And then we're going to do row 3 plus row 2 and replace row 2. And same thing, row 3 plus row 4 and replace row 4, right? And so now we're going to get, what do we get now? So in this case here, the first 2 columns are going to remain unchanged. So this is going to be 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, and the third column is going to become 0, 0, 1, 0, right? And now we're going to add, right? We're just adding, we're adding row 3 to the other rows, right? So all of these -1s are going to go to 0. So now here, these are going to become -1, and this is going to become 0. So it's going to be -1, -1, -1, and 0. Right? Oh, excuse me. And so now, yeah, these become 0, -1, -1, 0. Right? And then this is going to be, okay, so -42 plus -98 is going to be -140. Right? And then -42 plus 34 is going to be -8. Right? And of course this stays -42. And the last row is -42 plus 42 gives us 0. And so now we have a dependent set of equations here. So, which in this case it looks like x4, the flow rate for x4 is going to be free. Okay, so that's the part that's going to be, so the other flow rates, x1, x2, and x3 are all going to be dependent on the flow rate of x4. Okay, so now, what is this? Now, okay, so now we can't eliminate these, so we're down. We have row zeros, Yeah, we're done. So here, so now what we have is x1 minus x4 is equal to negative 140. And x2 minus x4 is equal to negative 8. And x3 minus x4 is equal to negative 42. Okay, so now let me just verify. Make sure we answered what they wanted us to answer. Okay, because so we set up the system in row echelon form. That's what they wanted us to do in part B, so we did do that. Okay, so this is in reduced row echelon form. And let's see what they want us to do next. All right, now part C says if the traffic between intersections D and A is 260 vehicles per hour. So D and A would be X4, right? So because again, it's all dependent on the flow rate on that stretch of road between intersection D and intersection A. And it says if the traffic between intersections D and A is 260 vehicles per hour, determine the flow rates of X1, X2, and X3. All right, so now, so if X4 is equal to 260 vehicles per hour, that would mean what? That would mean that X1 is, well here, let me write, before we do that, just let's write these in terms of X4. So that would mean X1 is equal to X4 minus 140. X2 is equal to X4 minus 8. And X3 is equal to the flow rate of X4 minus 42. So that's the three equations that we get out of it. Okay. So now, with that being said, now we're told what if the flow rate between D and A is equal to 260 vehicles per hour. That would mean that the flow rate X1, which is between A and B, intersections A and B, would equal 260 minus 140, right? Which would be 120. And then the flow rate X2, which is between intersections B and C, is equal to 260 minus 8, which is going to be 252. And the flow rate X3, which is between intersections, so AB, BC, CD, right? Between intersections C and D is going to equal 260 minus 42, which would be 218. All right, and so those are vehicles per hour. Those are the rates. Okay, and then finally it says if the traffic between D and A is between 250 and 300 vehicles per hour inclusive, determine the flow rates of X1, X2, X3. Okay, so between 250 and 300. All right. All right, cool. That's a good one. I like that one. So now we're dealing with inequalities, right? So between 250 and 300. So now we're given that the flow rate is between, for X4, so X4 is between 300 and 250 inclusive, right? So that means what? That means that so again, remember this was X1 minus X4. All right? What's the best way to do this? Okay, so if X4, let's do this. If we solve these for X4, right? So that would mean X4, well, how do I want to do this? Oh, here. If I do, if X4 is between 250 and 300, that would mean X1, which is equal to X4 minus 150, that means what? X4 minus, so I'm going to subtract, so that means, okay, so that means I'm going to subtract 100 from both sides. So that means X1 would have to be between what? Oh, let me do this in steps so you can see it. I don't want to skip steps. So let's think about it this way, okay? So let's subtract 100, right? So that would mean that X4 minus 140 is between what? 300 minus 140 and 250 minus 140, right? And this is X1. And likewise, we could say that, okay, well, that means X4 minus 8 is between 300 minus 8 and 250 minus 8. And of course, this is X2. And then also X4 minus 42 would be between 300 minus 42 and 250 minus 42. And of course, this is X3. And of course, simplifying this means that what? X1 then is going to be between what? 110 and 160. X2 is going to be between 292, well, let's write it this way first. This This is going to be 242. So 242 and 292. And x3 is going to be between 208 right, 208 and 258. And notice that here that there's a difference of 50, right? If you don't count the endpoints, right? Notice that the differences are all the same between the minimum and maximum values. And that, I believe, covers everything that they wanted us to do. Yep, that's it. Have a great day.